Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Yoast SEO update. I am Carolyn Shelby.
And I am Alex Moss.
And this is where we run through recent search news, updates, and the patterns that we're watching. And we're going to talk honestly about what we think it all means.
And we'll separate what we know from what we're still testing and speculating about.
And then maybe we'll wrap up with some Q&A at the end. So let us begin our journey. If you have any questions, there's a tab over on the side that says Q&A. That is where we would like you to put your questions. If you put them in the chat room, they might get lost. So put them in the Q&A. If there's anything that you particularly want to hear answered that you didn't ask, you can upvote it. We'll try to get to the most upvoted questions. We kind of use that to help us prioritize a little bit. If you'd like to learn more about today's topic, first of all, it will be recorded. So before you ask, I promise you, it will be recorded. We archive everything on the website, so you'll be able to get the recording. You'll also be able to get a list of all of the resources that we've used for this episode. They will be emailed to you afterwards, and you can find it at yoa.st/June-2026. And you will also, on the website, like I said, find an entire archive of everything. So please do not panic. It will be there. We do other webinars if you're interested. One is an introduction to Yoast SEO. So if you're looking for more of a walkthrough on how to use the product, I invite you to attend that. The next one is July 8th. So just in a little over a week. You can join that one. Or if you're looking for something broader, but still about SEO, so like SEO for beginners, we have an SEO for beginners webinar that is coming up on July 21st. So lots of learnings that you can participate in. Also, in line with more learnings, you can also sign up for our webinar newsletter. It will send you reminders about when the next webinar is. You'll get details, hints, clues. It's much fun. So by all means, please sign up for that.
Before you go to the next one, please do sign up, because next month, we're telling you now, next month there won't be an SEO update. Our next one's going to be at the end of August, the 25th, but we'll confirm the date again in a slide. But next month we'll do a, happy summer holiday, and here's a hiatus email to at least tell you something from what's been going on next month.
Thank you. I forgot about that, because in the US, we don't all go on vacation in July.
It's a Europe thing.
I know, it totally is. All right. As always, we've got little helpful icons on each of the slides. So if you see a little stopwatch, it means immediate impact, probably something that you want to pay attention to right now. If you see chess pieces, those mean long-term strategy. Doesn't mean it's not important, just means that it might be something to file away and take into consideration as a mitigating or complicating factor in future decisions. All righty. Today's poll question.
Which you must answer in the poll. Answer it in the poll. So don't say A, B, C, D, E here. Put it in the poll on the right. I don't know which way, that way.
This way, I think. So answer, there's a little thing that says polls. Please answer there. Today's question: what search visibility shift feels most important for your site right now? So we have A, better reporting on where and how we appear. B, clearer guidance on what AI crawlers and agents actually use. C, stronger brand or entity authority across all search results. D, more structured, extractable content. Or E, new controls for publishers, creators, and site owners. So which one of these feels most important to your site right now? Answer in the polls. We'll get back to the aggregated results at the end of the news. And I think that's it. So
yeah, I mean, we've done well, by the way, with the poll results. We've already got 68, 70 votes already out of 190 that are in here. But I do remember last month, we'll push it a couple of times through the hour to make sure that we get as close to 190. But bravo, you.
Good job, people. No executive dysfunction here. All right. That was a personal joke. So let's get started with SEO and AI news. I like this one. I'm going to file this one under duh. Google strongly warns against manipulating brand mentions for AI manipulation. Gee, SEOs, don't go do SEO because you might SEO the results. Okay.
Yeah.
What are we supposed to do with this?
I mean, the word's manipulating. You and I both know very well that Google are great with words, and the word of the day here is manipulating, isn't it? So be active and do stuff, but they don't want you doing any what I can only refer to as black hat tactics. I mean, at the moment, they still call it manipulation in LLMs, but to me, that's black hat GEO.
So when they say brand mentions alone are not a shortcut to authority or trust. And I'm going to say that I think what they mean here is just like when people would buy links, and they would buy links on like random sites that had nothing to do contextually, or they were not contextually relevant to your site. So it'd be like someone who sells dog food buying a link or buying a brand mention on a website that does sports betting. Like, you could make the argument that I want to advertise there because people who gamble on sports also have dogs. Okay, but a brand mention would be something in an article where it says, Bob Smith from Bob's Puppy Chow says that you should definitely pick the Raiders over the Packers this weekend. What? No, that's clearly out of place and weird. And that's what they're saying. You can't really, they don't want you to rely on those out of place and weird contextual placements that you've purchased to jumpstart your brand authority, because it's not really giving you brand authority. If the website that it's coming from is about sports gambling and you sell dog food, how does that say that you're an authority about dog food? It doesn't. It says you're an authority about sports gambling. And is that what you really want? So, I mean, it makes sense, but it's such a broad sweeping statement that I think it's going to be misinterpreted. Also, I feel like Google may not be the boss of the applesauce anymore.
No, they're not. So that monopoly, I always think about, the big monopoly case, and by the time it's over, there won't be a monopoly, which is quite.
And I think that was their goal, because look how much money they would lose if.
Exactly. But it is interesting. I also try to go back to the penguin and panda days, where there was usually a warning similar to this just before something happened that was really big. I'm sure in the 6 to 12 months prior to Panda and Penguin, they basically said, don't do insert what you're doing with Panda and Penguin. I don't know, maybe this is a part of a process where you put a bit of PR out, you say don't do it, then less people do it, and then it understands what was being done and who stopped what and who's continuing to do such things. And then that puts those people who do such things in a precarious position once that may happen.
With this particular thing, though, are nice people really doing this? Like, would anyone who with a genuine moral compass say, I should definitely buy a brand mention on this site that's totally unrelated to what I do just to get my brand name out there?
That might be for agencies, though. There are agencies that don't work in the better long-term goal of their own.
No moral compass.
Exactly. So it's it's the geo snake oil bros, as Mark Williams puts it, which there are. So I don't know, mate, but I don't see those people would listen to this and respect it as well. So they will keep, if it's working now, it's working now, and they don't think if it's not working in 9 months, it doesn't really matter. They're either not my client or they are my client.
I don't even think it's going to be 9 months. I think with the rate at which the AIs enable the engines and these businesses to change the algorithm, I think they're going to be able to. I think they can already start factoring out these manipulated brand mentions. They're just going to become worthless. So I think the moral of the story here is, if you're a good person and you've been operating with good intentions, you're probably okay. Yeah. If you've been doing things that skirt the sketchy, maybe stop doing that.
That was kind of the message all along, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, I would agree with that. All right, moving on. CMA secures fairer deal for publishers and improves Google search services in the UK. All right, the gist of this is the UK has required Google to give publishers controls over how their content is used in generative AI features. So they can legally block their content from Google's AI features and from being used in training without hurting their standard search rankings. I don't even know how to phrase this nicely. So there's no way Google was going to agree to anything that would force them to guarantee visibility. And even if your search rankings don't decrease, people are getting their answers from the AIs anyway. They're getting their answer from AI overviews. If you rank number one organically, but you've blocked the AI overviews from using your content, they're still not going to cite you because they can't confirm the data at grounding time. So what's going to happen is they're going to say, I'm going to synthesize an answer. These are the top 10 results, and I'm going to pick something from these. And yours is number one, but you've blocked them. They're just going to skip you. So can you do this? Yes. If you're very concerned about the AIs having your precious proprietary data that they can get from no other source, yes, you can do this, but you're not going to get cited. And it didn't say this in the article, but I'm telling you, this is my interpretation. This is my reading of the tea leaves. You will be shooting yourself in the foot. So unless you have something, unless the content that you have is so unique and so proprietary that you need to keep it away from, that Google cannot possibly get it from anywhere else, I would volunteer that perhaps you should let them in, because they're going to get that information anyway. And if they're getting it anyway, you want them to get it from you and to cite you, right?
And if you're convinced that you're not going to get that information, it's exclusive to you, and you really do want to put it behind a wall, then at least create controls where you can have some kind of incentive for someone to see that citation, to come in and then go further.
Yeah, like have a teaser outside of your paywall or whatever the wall is that you're protecting it with, so that there's something for them to cite. There's something for them to grab.
Kind of like how Amazon does it, when you want to buy a book and it shows you chapter 1, so you can read that chapter, get enthralled by it, and then it's your decision to purchase or not. Kind of like that. But this is more of a publisher news thing. However, this is a legal thing in the UK. I'll put the .gov.uk link in. So it's a government thing. This isn't just like a case, a private case, a civil case. And that may have implications, not just in the UK, but then it might permeate into Europe, and then probably eventually in America, where people can control their content. I mean, probably not America, we'll see. But, we're the guinea pigs, aren't we, of the legal basis of what happens and what not sometimes. The UK and Germany.
So from the US perspective, I think the way the government is looking at things right now is that if we ratchet things down, if everybody else ratchets things down tight, but we stay relatively open, all the companies that are fleeing from the tight regulations will come to us, and then we make more money. So the business is always going to flow to the most open regulatory environment. So maybe this is just from an American perspective, but I feel like you guys are maybe shooting yourselves in the feet a little bit by trying to tighten things up so much, because you can only force your will onto the market so much before they're just going to pick up their toys and go play in another field, which will be where there's no rules.
I guess. Well, if your business model is being the source of truth, then maybe there's some defense in this. But other than that, I think probably 95% of the people in here are like, okay, fine, whatever, doesn't affect me. So yeah, if it does, we'll tell you in a future episode.
Okay. All right. Why don't you tell me about this new Search Console stuff?
Yeah, so it's new but old. So we did report it on a previous month that they were releasing it. I didn't have it when we reported on it, I think, last month, but now it's rolled out. So if you were to go into Search Console and you look at performance, you should now see a down arrow where you can see generative AI as a report. And if you go in there, you can see grounding queries, the pages at which they're attached to. Is it useful? Kind of, yeah, because it gives you some data, although I don't know, grounding queries to me is just a new version of the term keyword. And, you can put things into topics and stuff like that. But other than that, it's the only thing first hand from Google that you can use as data on a month-on-month basis for reporting.
The grounding queries are important, though, because that's an indication that you're being cited, because they're not going to come ground unless they're using you for something. Whereas training data, you're not going to really know about, and that's kind of getting ingested into their corpus, and they're pulling from that randomly or silently to generate answers. So I am happy to know about the grounding information. And I really encourage everyone, if you don't go peek at Search Console at least once a week, you might want to. There is interesting information in there. And if you're not accustomed to looking at it, it might look confusing. But honestly, the more you stare at it, the more it makes sense.
Oh yeah, 100%. And it is good that you can now do, you can match pages and queries as well, which is what they're starting to do. And you can do blocking controls should you need to do that. Usually, again, in 95% of cases, with the 5 being the publishers, you probably don't need to do these things. So yeah, that's Google. They've added that, and it should be available to everyone. Let us know what you think of it.
All right. There are new AI visibility insights also in Bing Webmaster Tools. So again, if you're not looking at Bing Webmaster Tools, or if you don't have it set up, I strongly encourage you to do so. It's free. I know it's one more tool you have to look at, but it does have really interesting information. And sometimes the information in Bing Webmaster Tools is a little ahead of the information that you're getting out of Google. It's just that Google has more insights into Google information, and Bing has more insights into Bing information. But the presentation and the types of data that they show aren't always the same. And it's interesting to see how the two companies are handling these reports differently. So they've officially launched these new reporting features. Their reports include intents, topics, citation share, and performance comparisons. And again, this just helps you better understand how your content is appearing in the Bing AI experiences. And the data is providing new ways to measure AI search visibility beyond rankings. Do remember that the AI Copilot things are baked into everything. So across all Google products, they've got Gemini baked in. Across all Microsoft products, they have Copilot baked in. Copilot and Microsoft products are, think about all the people you know that are running Windows machines. It's in all of that stuff. If they have a business that is a Windows shop, it's in everything. So the market share understanding that we used to have with Google, and then everybody else was very minute, kind of different now, because Microsoft has such a huge share of the business market for just regular computing, and all of these AI services are now embedded into that. So don't sleep on this. Get accustomed to looking at Bing. I think it's going to be helpful for you in the long term.
Yeah, and if this is all a bit over your head when it comes to data, one little tip: if you're a user of an LLM like ChatGPT or Claude, download an export of Google Search Console. Start asking it questions about it. What do you see? What could I do about my site? Do the same with Bing in a separate session, and then add it to a project together, or do a third session where you actually upload them both at the same time and ask it to give you insights into what it sees between the two sources, and then it might identify gaps, opportunities, stuff like that. It's always interesting to compare Google and Bing's data together, because you'll always find some little thing that both aren't telling you about each other that could really help you.
Yep. All right, so Google has added new publisher profiles, insights, and business data integrations, and this is for your Google business profile. There's new tools that are supposed to give you as the website owner more insights and control over how your content is appearing in search. Publishers and creators can now create profiles to showcase their work in Google search, which is a little bit different than how they've been doing things before. And ultimately, the update's supposed to provide more visibility into performance across Google properties. And by that, they mean less focus on the regular search results and more insights into there's the Google business profiles, there's various publisher carousels. There's a lot of special Google things that we haven't traditionally gotten a lot of data out of, and now they're trying to rectify that. So if you are a publisher, not just I say I'm a publisher, but you're actually registered as a publisher with Google, you're going to have a lot more information. If you're someone who is monetizing created content, again, this is going to be helpful for you. And if you have a Google business profile, this will also be helpful for you. So do pay attention to this.
And it's always good to fulfill the knowledge graph, right? Which this is going to contribute towards. And then, within Google's ecosystem, and obviously Gemini, that's going to work really, really well. But yeah, it also has, not reeks of, but definitely has the smell of Google Plus when that came out, their version of Facebook trying to create not a social network, because that's not what this is, but an area where aggregated publishing can be put in a profile page. And then again, it's just something to connect to another entity.
I think also it's their way of helping themselves connect these entities to all of the different things they've got out there, to make sure that they're referencing the right company and they're crediting the right people with the creation of content. So filling this out is going to help that. I don't see a downside to doing it. So I would make a note and investigate if I were you. This one was fun. Google updates SEO guidance on hiring expert and using SEO tools. The gist of this is, don't blindly trust the AI tools with what they tell you in terms of SEO advice, what to change your website to, how to change your website. And same goes with SEO tools. You can't blindly trust anything. Okay, remember in Harry Potter when Ron Weasley's dad said, never trust anything that thinks when you can't see its brain, or something like that? Basically the same thing. Trust but verify. So anything it says, that's great. It might be right, but you need to verify that it's right before you do it. You need to do that, at least a gut check, before you commit some changes. For example, I had a situation where AI said, you should absolutely change all the keywords on your site to say advisor instead of consultant, because advisor is fancier. And I said, oh, okay. And I went and I changed it all. And then I found out that advisor carries a lot of connotations that are mostly related to finance. So now my website was being compared against Wells Fargo and like literally banks. I'm like, what the? A, I should not be competing against banks. B, I can't compete against banks. And C, I don't do finance stuff. So what the hell, right? Yeah, turns out ChatGPT might have given me some bad information on that one. And I should have done more due diligence before I just blindly said, sure, I'm just going to totally rebrand my site. That's cool.
That's the problem, bypassing permissions. Sometimes we do it though. We want to, but it is interesting. But maybe it goes back to what we were talking about before about the about what I was saying about Excel documents and putting them into Claude. And actually, it's better to get two different sets of data. So this is kind of right when it says don't just use Bing if you want Bing Webmaster Tools if you want to improve things in Google Search Console. That's kind of, again, with their wording, they're kind of saying, but I like my data enriched by more than one source. That's why people like SEMrush have integrators, and Ahrefs, they all have them. They have an integration where you can connect Google Analytics and Search Console, and you can get multiple sources of information and then getting it together and having it actually analyzed. So yeah, do use their stuff, and yes, be wary of third-party tools, but I'd say be wary of third-party tools in their own alone right. It's great to use them all and decide what's actually useful for you and your business.
Trust but verify. That's the best way to do it. You've got your own intuition. Read everything. Don't just blindly accept all of the guidance, because sometimes it's wrong.
Yeah.
All right. Talk to me about schema.org ads usage statistics, because you have this lovely graph that you made.
Yeah, so I made this graph for a talk I did in London last week for search and stuff. And schema.org released a load of data on all their item types and how much they used on the internet. They're using only Google as a source. I'll just shove in an SE roundtable post about it, so you can read more about it. And I did a talk about it because what I found interesting is this bar chart that I made. And there are 10 million plus websites out there that only use 12 item types within schema, right? So the majority of the internet use only 12, and there are 958 to choose from. And there are less than 1,000 websites globally that use 485 or more. So there's less than 1,000 websites that use only half of what is available in schema, which I find quite interesting how little it's used, but it's used a lot. It's obviously used a lot, but those 12 item types carry the web, really, if you think about it. But I just found it very interesting that this is the data set. This was just one of a few different slides. I will paste the URL to my actual slides in this chat while Carolyn's talking about this or the next one. However, the takeaway is schema's used on a lot of the web, but not enough schema is used on the web, in my opinion.
I have nothing to add to that. So for time, we'll keep moving. This is a fun one. The German court ruled that Google can be directly liable for false AI overview claims. This basically opens up the door for people in Germany to sue Google if Google says something inaccurate about their business or their product. There's I don't know how I feel about this. You as a business owner should be responsible and actively taking steps to make sure that valid information is not only out there, but it's accessible. The biggest reason that Google gets weird information is either you're not publishing valid information in the places where it's getting the information. So let's say on Reddit, your company policy has been, we are not going to post on Reddit no matter what, because we don't like it and we don't want to engage with that. So the only voices that are out on Reddit are voices that are spreading bad information about you. Let's say they're competitors. Let's say they're just saying that, you're trash. It doesn't have to be quantifiable, right? You're bad, you're evil, you wear pink socks. They could say anything. And as long as it's not, feloniously slanderous, what are you going to do about it, right? The problem is that when these AIs go out and they look for information, they're only getting one side of the story. And if the predominance of the information says that you're ugly, you smell bad, and, your mother was a goat, that's what they're going to repeat because you've done nothing to mitigate or provide a counterpoint to that information. If you say, well, but all the valid information is on my website, and then it turns out your website isn't really crawlable or ingestible by the AIs, now you've got all this accurate information that's invisible, and there's all this inaccurate information that's very easy for them to gobble up. What do you think they're going to repeat? The stuff that they've got access to, because they're not making moral judgments about what's obviously right or wrong. They're just repeating the things that are probably right, and they base probability on how often they see it. So that's a very long-winded way of saying, yes, in Germany, you can sue Google about this, but also you should really be responsible for taking steps to make sure that accurate information is available. If you can prove that you've taken steps to make sure accurate information is available and they still get it wrong, then I would personally bless you in your lawsuit. But if you're not taking care of it yourself, then you can't just go and scream when they get bad info.
Yes, but again,
that's mine. I'm not a lawyer, but I stayed at Holiday Inn Express last night.
Well, this is the second example. The UK was the one before. This is another one of inconsistencies, which again goes not hand in hand, but it does not complement the other one. If there's less factual data out there, then there might be more of a risk of hallucination and more of a risk that they're liable for something. Interesting.
Well, if your website is a source of truth and you haven't gone through to make sure that they can read your website, that's a huge problem. If you've got pages, look at the help sections of a lot of these tech companies, there was a craze for a while where it said, rather than make a menu and make people search for their answers, make them start typing in their question and we'll just recommend help articles to them. The problem is, if that's the only way to get at the individual articles, you've now created a gate that requires human interaction to get through. And the AIs can't do that, or they won't do it. They're not going to, especially not when speed and expense is a factor. They're going to say, screw this. I can go get this information from Reddit, or I can go get this information from Stack Overflow. And that's where they will go. So if there's bad information out there and you've gated all the good information, you know, what are you doing?
Then that's a different tale, isn't it? For a tale of two webs. We'll see what happens in the future as it prongs away. So enough of legal mumbo jumbo.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. Google have been introducing a few things in the last month. A week or two after the search team in Google was saying, please do not make any markdown versions of any pages on your website. Another theme in Google, create a way for you to make markdown version of everything in your website. But here, it's not just markdown output. It's a way of cataloging the entirety of a site's content inside markdown in a nice little catalog. So it's like a collection. Think of it as an archive of textbooks with no diagrams or no fluffy stuff, which is what your website would be. And if anyone doesn't know what markdown is, it's a form of markup, which makes it sound even more complicated. But markdown is a shorter version and a much more plain version of having formatting and structure inside text, further than it being to blocks of text. But it's visually non-appealing to the human eye, but it is extremely appealing to an agent that doesn't need that fluff that you and I like to see with our eyes. So that, in short, is what it is. It's another one of those, we're all throwing mud at the wall with standards and everything like that, and this is another bash at what Google are up to try and standardize that in some way. But this kind of is on the same page as what we did with Microsoft and NL Web, but on a content level. And it's also kind of not at odds with Cloudflare, because Cloudflare had the crawl endpoint, and this is another way of doing that without necessarily being in Cloudflare.
There's a question in the chat room. So Google is saying, don't use the .md version, use our version. That's kind of what I'm hearing from this.
That's what the search team are telling you to do. That's all I can say. Google as a whole aren't saying don't make markdown versions. What they're doing is, and the actual quotes are in my slides, which is in the chat, is that John Mueller from Google and Fabrice Canal, who's the counterpart in Microsoft, have both said don't do anything that would make you serve two versions of a page when there can be only one. And I get that argument from their point of view. They don't want to double up work to see the same thing. And obviously they don't want it manipulated, you know? They don't want a different... That's what they don't want. They don't want the markdown version to have more manipulation, which we already know they've been saying in panels not to do, than the ones that humans are seeing with their eyes. They don't want that. So
technically I understand this. However, the markdown files are so light. They're so light. Yep. I don't think this is that much of an extra burden on them, for one thing. For another thing, I think that I think the we don't want you to manipulate these MD files. I think that argument is specious.
There are solutions, right? You know, they've got rel alternate, which, you know, hreflang uses that, no problem at all. That's like us saying you can't, if you're a British company, you can't make an American English version of it because it's too similar, the language. Like color and color. Like that, come on. You've got the technology to figure out what's the source of truth in the given context and what is needed. But like you say, token economics, I used a bit of code of, you know, an H2 with a class in it and an ID saying about us. That would consume 12 to 15 tokens in HTML. Well, it will consume.
But they're stripping that out. So we know that they strip that stuff out anyway. So I guess technically, once they strip out the main page, it's basically the same as what's on that .md file. So, but they're so light. They're so light. Why are they complaining?
I don't know. There's content negotiation as well, which is a thing which can be done where you'll serve the same URL, but depending on the agent or the what's looking at it, it will serve you markdown or markup. I don't know, but again, that's John and Fabrice saying something from Team A, whereas Team B, which are in the engineering side, are making things like open knowledge format, which I don't know. I'm an SEO and I'm listening. I listen more to the engineers than the search team. I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but whatever the engineering teams are doing, I feel like search are going to have to deal with what the engineering team did in a year from now. So you're kind of a year ahead if you listen to them a lot. I'm just gonna
file this away. I'm gonna take this under advisement. I don't know that I'm going to be super eager to jump on this right now. So
no, if you can and you have the resource to look into things like this, do it. But if not, wait until people have said that maybe it's extremely safe to do.
I do think that there's something to be said for just don't make your website a dumpster fire, and you won't need to have all these mitigations.
Yeah.
So there's that. All right.
This is great timing. This is brilliant timing. This is literally a good continuation from the last one, right? Because the one thing that the search team and the engineering teams got different was the use of llms.txt. And I don't know if you're remembering Google I/O a couple of months ago. Oh no, it was last month. That's how fast time is going. That they said use llms.txt in Google I/O, and then obviously SEOs of the world are saying, Una over there, the product developer, just said use it, and John over here, you're saying don't use it. So they've had to actually go ahead and update the documentation on llms.txt to basically say that it's pH balanced, right? That it's not harmful, it's not detrimental, but it also, again, from a search perspective, isn't super. It's like not a ranking factor. Is that the best way of describing it? It's not a direct ranking factor, but it's not dangerous to use it.
I'm pretty sure no one ever said it was a ranking factor.
No, but some people want it, want these things to be, well, is there a way of making something sure that something can be seen by an LLM of some kind? And so here the answer is not in generative, not in search, not generative search, not in the search team do they think that it has massive positive effects, right? But that doesn't mean that in another scenario it isn't useful to another agent that is not owned by Google. So I don't know. My advice is to hedge your bets. It's insurance. It's free to put in. It's in Yoast SEO free. It's really easy. It's easy.
It's like I'm not going to stop walking to pick up a $5 bill laying on the street. I will. I'm not going to leave money laying on the ground.
Exactly. I don't know. I also mentioned this last week. It was a massive heat wave in the UK for anyone or in Europe, in the whole of Europe, it was a massive heat wave. And I used llms.txt. I compared it to people going out and buying aircon, right? So no one in England has air conditioning because we don't need it. But all of a sudden there's a heat wave and it's coming. So everyone goes out and they're like, no, it's fine. It'll be all right. And then the heat happens. And then all of a sudden everyone
it's not fine.
I know it's not fine, and everyone needs that air conditioning as a method of insurance to regulate the heat inside, knowing full well that in a week's time, you will no longer need that air conditioning unit that you've just spent quite a bit of money on, but maybe you'll need it next year. But again, platforms now is like the weather here, right? Sometimes the weather will take it in a place where you need that thing. And if you've got the air conditioning unit now, when it next gets hot, you don't need to rush and think about it. It's just there in your house.
It's amazing. Like having a snowblower.
Yes.
It doesn't always snow, but when you get a foot of snow, you really want that snowblower.
I like it. We're using current events in search with current events in general.
Not that I needed a snowblower this week, but
No.
All right, let's keep going. Announcing the Agentic resource discovery specification. Why don't you talk about this one? Because that slide I know is from your lovely Search and Stuff talk.
Yes, it was another thing that I touched upon, which was another thing that's been released. Agentic resource discovery. The best way of describing this, I would say it's at agents.md, but leveled up. And if you don't know what Agents.md is like, it's kind of like llms.txt, whereas LLMs tells you what the site's about. Agents.md told agents what you could do with the site, how you can take action on the site, and what capabilities does it have? Does it have an MCP? Does it have a search catalog? All of these things. And ARD is a nice collective list and archive of all the capabilities of everything you can do with a site that's not just with one file, but you can go in offshoots and use those things directly. What does it describe as? It's a specification for publishing, discovering, and verifying AI capabilities. And we left it out of another slide, but they've also created an open knowledge catalog, which I didn't think was worthy of news here because it was quite for enterprisey and data-led sites. But Google are doing a lot, and funnily enough, the output of this the output of ARD is, you guessed it, Markdown. It's all in Markdown. So again, I'm unsure what the search team are going to have to do with this, but they've probably got another panel to do now to make sure that they're on the same page but on different pages. But yes, ARD is something that you may or may not. If you're interested in this stuff, have a look at it. I'll put in the chat a link to it. But again, another thing to wait. And if we mention it again in a future edition, then maybe you can look at it some more.
Yep. All right. And in sad news, just last week we were the search world was notified that Bruce Clay passed away at the end of May. A lot of you may not know who Bruce was. He was already well established. He was the guy in SEO. He was basically the godfather of SEO. If you've ever done anything with content silos, Bruce came up with content silos. He was from Chicago, the Chicago area, fled after college and went out to California. And made his life out in California. His agencies are global. So many people in the industry I know can credit their entire careers to starting out with Bruce or going through one of his week-long training sessions where you would fly out to California, you would stay in a hotel the whole time. It was very intensive. And honestly, comparing the week training that I did with Bruce to the week-long, I just did a business school week-long intensive. The Bruce class was more intensive than business school stuff. He was a pioneer. Literally, people call people pioneers kind of recklessly or loosely. They throw that around, but he was a pioneer. And yeah, we really suffered a loss. Unfortunately, I think we're going to start encountering more of these bits of sad news because Bruce was, I think, 78 this last month, and none of us are getting younger.
No.
So it's always a tragedy when it's someone young, but it's a different kind of tragedy when it's someone who's been such a large figure in the industry, and we lost him to time, basically. So yeah, now we're ending on such a down note. Thank you, Bruce, for everything you did. You were wonderful. And
yeah, I have to thank him as well, but from afar, because I never met him or anything, but I watched all of his stuff when I first started in SEO, which was weird because there were about 5 people, and he was one of those. If you're going to learn anything that's beyond beginner, he was one of the people. Him and your Matt Cutzes of the world. He was up there as well. Yeah. So rest in peace and blessings to Bruce's family.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go on to also in the news. We'll try to perk things back up.
Yeah.
Because we must onward and upward, right? So why don't you give us the rundown of the also in the news?
Yeah, there's a lot. There's 2 pages full. So here's me and my fast voice as usual. Screaming Frog have released a new version of their Spider crawler, which is good because now it's got an MCP included. Google CEO Sundar is okay with AI mode replacing classic search, which basically means that AI mode is going to replace classic search in the next.
Kind of has, hasn't it?
Yeah, it is already. I remember being in the WordCamp panel actually last month, or it was the beginning of this month, and the moderator asked the question of, how long do you think it'll be until the 10 blue links are dead? And like all 4 of us basically said at the same time, it's dead already. They're already gone. I don't see them that often anymore, which is interesting. What else? Google much less websites opt out of AI search features in the UK. Kind of did that one already. Make core update happened already, and it completed last week, I believe. Google Search AI overviews in AI mode was unaffected by a Gemini outage. There was a Gemini outage, if anyone noticed it. Anthropic is forced to shut down Fable 5. I'm sure loads of people saw that. Kind of think it's PR-y, though.
That was fun, and that would be a whole segment on why that got shut down, because that goes into all kinds of like national security stuff and like Federal Munitions Act things. It was really cool.
Well, clearly something happened in the first 24 hours, and they went, let's cut it back. I don't know.
It got into everything. It walked over all of the highly classified government systems. It just, in minutes, it was frightening. And yeah,
I hope everyone's enjoying their last year on the planet, maybe.
Be prepared to welcome our robot overlords.
Yeah. What else happened? All right. Does any of this matter anymore? Let's find out. Google's tightened requirements on domain migrations. Yeah, they just updated their documentation. They wanted it to be a bit more stringent, which it should be anyway, as a whole. You can now connect Google business profiles to Google Analytics, which we covered within all the analytics-y stuff. We've already done the guidance on third party. They've removed, finally, the documentation to the FAQ of rich result, which is serious. They got rid of it, and they 301'd that page back to the deprecation
They're super serial. They are definitely not bringing that back.
Yes, they're not. They're never coming back, thanks to us. And lastly, Google rolls out and completes June's spam update, which I think was another within 24 hours. So if you're seeing fluctuations in the last week or two, up or down, it's because of either the core or the spam update. See if it aligns and see if there's any problems. Read the winners and losers. I know Systrix does a really good blog on winners and losers of all the updates. And if you feel you've lost and you've gone down, and you read what happened to the other losers and why that may be, it may be for similar reasons, and to reverse that thing.
All right, let's go through the Yoast news real quick because I know we're getting short on time. So we have some performance and workflow improvements were rolled out in recent releases. We had a big performance upgrade for large sites. So 27.8 was supposed to have significant speed improvements. One of the fixes took a sitemap query on a 2 million user site from over 300 seconds down to 25 milliseconds. My brain cannot even math the percentage decrease or the percentage improvement in that. So faster admin pages, better, faster post editor on large sites. If you have a large site, you should have noticed a dramatic improvement. So hooray.
Yeah.
SEO analysis is supposed to be faster too. This being 27.9. Have you noticed these things?
The sites I've been working on that I've been on the road all month. So I haven't been able to look at this in particular. But I know I did see one of our engineers shared a bunch of statistics that made me go, ooh, that's impressive. So yes, it works as far as I know. Check it out, especially if you're a big site.
Yeah. And then also, if you happen to use the duplicate post plugin, which is a separate plugin from Yoast SEO, you will see that the rewrite and republish functionality has improved. I don't know how many of you are using this, but it's great if you've got a particular website or web page that you really, really like and you want to change it a little, but keep it the same style. You just republish it, and then you can change the text on it without having to figure out all the different patterns that you use. So
Yep.
Super handy for those things.
As you're going on to the next slide and telling everyone about the next event, can everyone go back into the poll and make sure they do a vote, because it's basically the next slide. So we've got 136, but there's 207 of you in here watching. So
you've
make
got
sure
like
that
30
number,
seconds.
you've got 30 seconds to do it. So there's the
All
polls
right.
on the right, and then click that and make yourself an option.
All right, so I'll talk about our next SEO update. Remember, we're not doing a July. It's going to be at the end of August. So the last Tuesday in August, which is August 25th, you can sign up at any time in the usual way. And if you've registered for our newsletter, there will be reminder links in there. So now I hope you've all put in your poll answers, because we're going to the poll results.
Hold on. I mean, they were still coming in. Okay, we'll take someone else. We've got 160. That's 75% more or less of the audience.
Is that a statistically relevant sample size?
That's a good sample, I reckon. 2, 1, okay. Closing. It's closed now. So now let's add it to the stage. Let's see what results we get. Okay, so the question was, what search visibility shift feels most important for your site right now? So the winner is clearer guidance on what AI crawlers and agents actually use. Interesting. What was the least? More structured, extractable content and new controls for publishers, which tells you your audience, right? Because I reckon if we were in Barry's, it'd be a bit different, this data, wouldn't it?
Probably.
Interesting. What's your take on this then? We're not got clear enough guidance in general.
I don't know if it's that the guidance isn't clear. It's just the guidance it changes every 5 seconds, and it's complicated, and there's no certainty with it. So I can completely understand why there's a desire for certainty, just some kind of assurance. It just feels like everyone is blindfolded and stabbing around with pokey sticks. Nobody knows what they're poking at. Nobody knows what they're poking. It's just a lot of blind stabbing.
Just lots of blind stabbing. It is what we're doing. And weirdly, I think a year ago or two, I was in here saying, oh, the dust will settle in 12 months. And it hasn't. It has not settled whatsoever, which I was half surprised about. But, things like OKF and ARD and all of these other abbreviations and acronyms, I'm hoping I'm hoping again in 12 months that one of these things or a combination of them will create some kind of rule or standard that everyone will agree with. Let's hope, because it will make everyone's job a lot easier.
You can keep hoping. I do not have full faith and confidence in that outcome.
No. Right. Let's remove this from the stage and let's get some questions.
Very depressing.
Instead. Yes.
No more depressing.
So we don't have upvotes. Remember, those are our crowd thingy days. Crowdcast days.
Okay.
Yeah,
my bad.
Here now. So we have to just you just have to add stuff. Okay. Let's see. Add this. I'm just chosen at random, so I haven't read any. I have code in my product pages which doesn't belong there. It said it's from Divi. I lose Elementor, not Divi. Does it affect SEO if I code in there that's not necessary?
If you used to use Divi and now you've switched to Elementor, it's entirely possible that that's like a relic from before. You could probably just delete it.
It's wrapped around content. A good thing I like to do, if it's got content, it's a bit finicky, but you've got this display version and text version where you can see under the hood, kind of like the markdown. Go in there and get rid of all the HTML salad that's in there and just leave the text. Sometimes that happens when you paste something in from Microsoft Word or a Word document or a Google Doc. You paste it directly into WordPress and it looks fine. But if you were to look at the source code, it has lots of span equals font weights and it adds all of this stuff
artifacts
you don't need. Yeah. Another way of doing it is you can copy everything, then delete it. Not everything, but copy what you delete what you need to, copy it, delete it, and then you paste without formatting, which is a keyboard shortcut of Command Shift and V. Yeah, I don't even know what it is. I just know exactly where it is on my keyboard. Command Shift and V is pasting without formatting, and that may magically do it. If not, you might have to maybe get a dev to look at it somewhere. If it's hard coded, it may be a template file. I don't know.
I go in and I switch to the text version, or there's in Gutenberg, it's a edit as text, I think, or edit as HTML. So you're not in the WYSIWYG, it switches to an actual code version. And I just go through and I manually delete out the icky HTML artifacts and leave the text. But should it affect your SEO? It shouldn't affect your SEO.
No.
So.
Okay, next question from Tanisha Parmar. How do we ensure that AI-aided content is on our website ranks and is not penalized? So it depends what you mean by AI-aided content. So if it's generated by AI, you need to be careful with it. If it's something obvious, like, I don't know, I keep on using a ladder as an example. If you know what a ladder is, I guess you can use AI to define what a ladder is, because it's not hard to understand what a ladder is. It's not additive.
They're not going to penalize. They're not penalizing the content because it was made by AI. They're penalizing the content or ignoring the content because it's bad content. So
make sure
you have to read it. You have to edit it.
Yeah, so Danny Sullivan, what does he keep on saying? Unique, helpful content intended for humans. And I think now he uses the word that isn't commoditized. So he adds the rule. That's like the extra E of the EEAT, isn't it? That you add
later. A commodity is just something that's available to everyone. Like there's nothing unique or special about it, so everyone can get it. Like think about what are commodities. Electricity is a commodity. Water is a commodity. It doesn't matter what company you get it from. There's nothing different about it, right? So non-commodity content would be content that's a little bit different. So what are you doing to that content that makes it unique to you? If you say, well, it's a presentation, my friend, there's only so many different ways you can present certain types of information, and it's not really making it that much more interesting. No. So you have to make sure that you're writing things that are interesting and somewhat unique, whether it's you're adding your unique perspective to it, or your, some unique study that you did or some unique situation that it was involved in. But if you're just repeating facts and they're the same facts that everyone can get everywhere else, there is nothing special about that, and it is unlikely to be prioritized for citation.
Excellent. Good. I'm going to put one. We've got 2 more minutes, and I'm going to put one on that I saw was for you because you're the one who said it. What do you suggest you look at specifically in Search Console on a weekly basis? And before you answer, I also saw someone asked about Jennifer Dennis. You asked about how to set up a publisher profile. As Carolyn answers this question, I'm going to answer yours by placing the link of exactly how you do it.
Okay, so what I suggest you look for specifically in Google Search Console Weekly, I like to look at the queries that resulted in a citation or a click. And I don't know if that's exactly the way it's phrased, but there is definitely a report where you can see the general topics, the query topic groups of things that are resulting in citations or mentions, because that's telling me what kind of content I have that's getting traction. If my site is about dog food and almost all of the citations have to do with puppies, I know that my adult dog food maybe isn't doing so great, and there's nothing special about my adult dog food, but something's really happening with my puppy food. So I can do one of 2 things. I can figure out what's special about the puppy stuff and maybe figure out why that's getting so much attention, and then try to replicate that in the adult dog food section. Or I can double down and say, maybe I don't care that I'm not selling as much adult dog food because all my margin's on the puppy food anyway, and I'm just going to double down and go hard on puppy content. So it's really helpful. It's helpful to understand how you're viewed from the outside. It's helpful to know what's getting traction and what's not. And it helps you make better business decisions, I think, because it's good input to make good business decisions. I think I'll leave it at that. So I hope that was helpful.
Hope that helped, Denise. Okay, well, we are at the top of the hour, so it's over. It's over until the end of August now. If you guys had any questions at all, feel free to reach out to us on LinkedIn or through email or something through the website, and we'll be happy to help. But until then, we will see you on the 25th of August at the same time. And we'll see you then, hopefully with all a bit more tan, maybe. Who knows?
Have a nice summer, everyone. Stay cool.
See you all soon.